These will be instructions on how to use the Juki industrial buttonhole maker. So there's 3 very important things that you need to remember before you start. And the first and foremost always is never, ever put the machine on until you are ready to make your buttonhole. So when it comes time, then you turn the machine on after everything is lined up. Number 2 is always let the buttonhole complete the cycle 100%. Never stop the buttonhole mid-cycle because it will jam the machine and make it unusable. So you won't be able to go any further. Number 3 is always mark your buttonholes with thread. There should be no pins in or around this buttonhole. And when you go to use it, you can see why. It's a very powerful machine. It's a great machine, but we all have to be very careful and know how to use it before we sit down and fire it up. Over here to the left is the on and off buttons. And down here are the pedals for the machine. The left pedal is for the presser foot, so that's going to lift your presser foot up and down. And the right one is the go pedal. And we'll talk about that when I show you how to use the buttonhole. Let's start by winding the bobbin. So you're going to put your thread on the spindle and thread it up through the eye, the top eye that carries the thread to the machine. And then you're going to go over to your eyelet and tension knob at the back of the machine. And you thread it through the back eyelet first, through the tension knob, and then out the front eyelet and down to where the bobbin winder is. The machine has a special bobbin that you can get from either Professor Blake or one of your instructors. Push the bobbin. You can see it's a different bobbin than your machine bobbin. It's a lot bigger. It's about the size of a quarter. So you want to push that bobbin completely back onto the spindle. You have to make sure it's all the way back. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Your thread will end up on the bobbin holder. You're going to take your thread, you're going to bring it down to the bobbin, and you're going to go counterclockwise, maybe 3 or 4 times. Once you've got it 3 or 4 times around, you're going to clip this up and then, and only then, put the machine on. The bobbin will wind by itself. Don't touch anything. When the bobbin is full, the buttonholer will pop open on its own. Next step is to thread the machine. So again, from your thread on the spindle and up into the eyelet on top, and then you're going to skip right over to your first set of eyelets. This eyelet gets snaked, which means it goes in the first hole and comes around and goes out the other hole. The thread then goes into the tension. When it gets to this eyelet, you do not snake it. You come out and back in. So you come out the top hole and back in the bottom hole. Then you'll come around and catch it on the hook. You'll bring it through the tension, catch it into the tension spring, catch it on the thread holder, come up to the eyelet, down to the front eyelet, down to this eyelet, through the eyelet above the needle, and then the last thing, and this is most important, is that the thread gets put into the needle from the back to the front. The machine will not run unless it's threaded at the needle from the behind the needle, pulling it to the front. Now I'm going to take my bobbin case out. I'm going to put in my bobbin. Now you're going to take your bobbin and hold it as if it's the letter P. It's going to go into the bobbin case with the black strip here on the left. Your thread's going to go into the slit and up and through the slit in the black metal strip. Next, take the bobbin in this direction and snap it in place. You do not have to thread it to the top. The machine's going to do that. Next step is to determine the size of your buttonhole. So what you want to do is to slide this throat plate open. And as you can see in here, there is a little chart with numbers on it. Flip this open. There's a chart with numbers on it. Let me zoom in a little bit. And right here are all your buttonhole sizes that this machine will do, from 1/4 inch up to 1 1/4 inches. Always keep in mind that your buttonhole needs to be 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch bigger than your button. So if my button is 3/4 of an inch, I'm going to add 1/8 of an inch, which gives me 7/8. So I'm going to shift this now. There's a little pointer here. You'll see it when you come to the machine that points to the size. Right now I'm pointing at 3/8 of an inch. In the supply drawer, there is a little wrench that comes with this machine. Make sure it always stays in that supply drawer, otherwise we are in trouble and can't use the buttonhole machine. So you want to take that wrench using the sprocketed edge. You want to gently, and again, the old adage is righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So moving to the left, I'm going to just lightly open that screw, and then I'm going to shift this up. So my button is 3/4 of an inch, so I'm going to go up here. I'm going to make a nice big buttonhole so you can really see what's going on here. Once I get it to where I want to tighten it back up, but very, very slightly. You do not under any circumstances make this really tight. It will break the machine. So just get it so that it's taut. And now this is going to make a 7/8 of an inch buttonhole for me. I'm going to put my flap down. I'm going to put my throat plate back on. And getting ready to make our buttonhole. I've marked my buttonholes where they're going to be. This buttonhole machine is going to go from the lower left corner up, over, down, and over. And it's going to happen very, very fast. So you want to make sure that you mark, particularly the lower left-hand corner. And I'm going to do 2 buttonholes for you. Never use this machine unless you have interfacing in between your 2 layers of fabric. A buttonhole always has to have interfacing. Even if it's just what we call a postage stamp, which is a little square of interfacing that you tuck behind the buttonhole because you want the rest of the garment to be nice and soft, that's fine, but do not run this machine unless there's interfacing supporting the buttonhole that you're going to make. And again, when we line it up, which we'll see in the next step, we're going to put it in the lower left-hand corner. For my first buttonhole, I'm going to take both of the threads from the bobbin and the top thread. And again, remember my needle, my bobbin needle, my upper needle is threaded from the back to the front. That's very important. I'm going to hold them all. You only have to hold it for the first buttonhole. After that, the machine is going to catch both of them, and you don't have to go back in again. The thread will be ready to go for each buttonhole. So let me demonstrate the first buttonhole. I'm going to step on the left pedal and pick up the presser foot, and I'm going to line my buttonhole up on the bottom where it's marked on the left-hand side, right around my center line. I'm looking for it here. I'm in an awkward position to do the video, so I apologize. So there, I'm right in the left-hand corner of where my buttonhole is going to be. I've lined up my center thread with the center plate, as you can see here. I'm holding both threads. I'm going to put the machine on and give the right pedal a really good punch. And shut the machine off. You'll see now when I lift up the foot pedal, the thread is caught and ready to go for the next button. And I've got a really good buttonhole, right exactly smack where I wanted it, where I marked it. Okay, one more time. I lift it up. This time, this is my second buttonhole, so I don't have to worry about the threads. The threads are now caught. I'm lining up the center of my buttonhole, the left-hand corner. When it's lined up, back away, turn it on, and I'm going to give that right foot pedal a really good, so you're going to push down and lift up your foot. And there you go. Perfect buttonholes every time. So now what you're going to do, I'm now going to take my buttonhole and using my embroidery scissors, not my seam ripper, I'm going to give it a little snip, folding it in half. And then I'm going to take my embroidery scissors again and carefully come up one side and then go up the other. And now I'm going to test to make sure that my button goes through there. I'm also, because I've done a test piece, I'm testing to see that my interfacing is the right weight and that the machine was able to take this fabric, that it didn't eat it up. So again, some very important tips in the next slide. Remember, only put the machine on when you are winding the bobbin or making a buttonhole. Otherwise, leave the machine off. Never, ever stop the buttonhole in the middle of a cycle because it will jam the machine and it's a little bit of work to get it unjammed. Make sure that you always use interfacing in your garment when you're doing an industrial buttonhole. It will just make the machine much happier. Make sure to remember to thread the needle from the back to the front. The machine is not going to work unless you do that. Make sure when you push the right pedal, just push it hard and once and release. So the mechanic calls it a punch. So give it a good press with your foot and then release it. Do not continue to press the pedal because then the buttonholer will not work. Make sure to watch this video and also make sure that you ask one of us to do a demonstration for you before you use the machine. I'm really not meaning to scare you. The machine is wonderful. I want you to use it. We just have to be careful and make sure that it runs for everybody so we can complete our garments timely. Okay, good luck and let me know if you have any questions.